My name's Nicholas, and I live aboard a 103-year-old historic wooden boat, Argonaut 2, and I'm on a mission to build community around this boat to help out with an ongoing restoration and preservation of its history. In this episode, I'm going to walk through a few maintenance projects that I did at the dock prior to leaving for 4 months for a season of charters up in the San Juan Islands. And then also dig into a problem that I had with my windlass, which is the machinery that hauls the anchor up and down, where I didn't have any parts diagrams or information about it, and so had to troubleshoot my way through figuring out what the problem was, and then finding my own resolution to get it back up and running again. Because I'm focused chartering the boat all summer long to help raise money for the restoration, I don't have the opportunity of cruising north into Canada. And so before we dive into the maintenance projects, I'm going to bring you along on a road trip I took up the beautiful coastline of Canada to visit my friends Leo and Marit on their boat Tally Ho to do some cruising around Skookumchuck Narrows before I take Argonaut north to the San Juan Islands, where I'll be chartering for the months of June into September. Here I am this morning on a trail that goes to a viewing point at a place called Sechelt Rapids, which is one of the fastest moving rapids in the world. The waters here can get up to 16 knots. And the differential between the head of the rapid and downstream can be about 2 meters or 6 feet. Something you don't often get to see when you're navigating through a rapid like this is all the big eddies and whirlpools and what makes it exciting. And that's because when you're on a boat, you try to go through during slack water, which is typically sometimes only a 3 or 4 minute window. Now in a few hours, there's going to be almost no movement of water at all. And then the water's going to come back in as the tide turns to flood. And that peak flood is going to create rapids downstream, which I think I might come back up just to see what those look like as well. The flood doesn't have as dramatic of a whirlpool as the ebb does, but we went back later that day to check it out and saw some kayakers surfing the waves, and were able to see the other side of the rapids, which turn out these massive standing waves. And of course, Leo and I always have the cameras out. At the tail end of my 9-hour journey, I started having sound coming out of my rotors and ended up having a brake issue that I needed to fix. Just grabbed some new brake pads to fix the car, made a quick sign to hitchhike my way back, and hopefully we'll get the car fixed. It's a beautiful windy day and I'd love to get sailing, so wish me luck. Everyone, I have something really special to share. So I just got picked up by this wonderful woman named Dawn, hitchhiking back up to Earl's Cove, talking about Argonaut. And Dawn, tell me what you just told me.
People that lived on the boat in the 50s are best friends with my Uncle Barry, who lived in Lake Cowichan. Their son's name is Paul, who was a very, very good friend of mine. History.
Oh, very cool. I love connections like this.
So do I.
So
Circle of life, man.
Yeah, very cool. Well, thank you for that. It's these kind of things that make this boat so special to me. There's no better feeling than encountering a total stranger and making a connection like that. Brake pads were a pretty quick fix, and then we were off to sailing. So much of boat ownership is not necessarily knowing how to fix a problem, but knowing that you can figure it out. And I think the next project is a good example of how a breakdown or when something goes wrong is more of an opportunity to learn something new. Last week, I was stuck in Port Townsend for 3 days when my gypsy was seized and I had a challenging time paying out chain on my Windlass, which is the system that is used to haul up and down the anchor. To start fixing it, I put a snub on the anchor and secured it to a cleat. That way I could remove the chain from the windlass and start pulling apart the capstan. What I think has happened is that this gypsy here has been seized to that conical clutch. I have no issue pulling the anchor up. However, when I go ahead and pay out the chain, I have to spin the motor in reverse and the entire unit together because this clutch is not releasing and the gypsy is not spinning freely. So the windlass is not the original windlass that came with the boat, and instead was installed by the United Church sometime in the late 1930s, according to photos that I have. I don't know much about the windlass, other than it was made in Vancouver, British Columbia, by a company called J. Swan. And unlike most of the old systems on the boat, I don't have any original parts diagrams or user manuals. To confirm what I suspect is the issue, I've pulled apart the port side of the windlass just to see what the parts look like, see about how I can remove the gypsy from the conical clutch, and to do so without damaging any of the machinery. After pulling it apart, I tried working the gypsy using a crowbar, heating up with an entire tank of MAP gas, Not sure if this is working. So I've been stuck at anchor for 3 or 4 days now. I could reassemble it and pull the chain back up, but I do want to fix the problem. And if you're going to be broken down, the one place to be broken down is here in Port Townsend when there's so much resources and knowledge and stuff to share. I'm determined to try to fix this myself. And in the meantime, I'm right in downtown Port Townsend. It's like a waterfront hotel spot. And also, which I didn't realize, is I anchored right in the middle of the Port Townsend Sailing Association start line, which goes from that buoy over there to this dock right here, and I'm square in the middle. I accidentally got some front row tickets to the race start. Sorry guys, I will do better next time. Sorry for being on your line, guys. You look good. The starboard is redundant to the port side, and to figure it out, I took apart the port side to learn what the pieces look like and to help inform me what the issue on the starboard side might actually be. While I have the port side capstan pulled apart, I'm gonna go ahead and clean this conical clutch, both the inside and the outside, just to clean it up before I put it back together. This is a lot of work, and it's one of those projects that I know I'll feel accomplished when it's done, but I'm losing my patience and I'm frustrated. 4 days to my first charter. Really just hope I can finish this project this weekend. Try it one more time. If I can't get it, I might have to go find a puller that's big enough to pull the whole Wildcat off the clutch assembly. Wish me luck. Oh, this is frustrating. I'll go see if I can find a puller somewhere. This is a puller. It's a 3-way puller. It's not long enough to reach the back of the Wildcat, which would be ideal. I am going to try and lightly pull from the front. I also grabbed some wedges to try and put some pressure in from the gap that exists between the backside of the Wildcat. Sometimes you wish you just had an extra hand. We'll see if I can get some pressure in from the back of the Wildcat, and then I'll go ahead and reheat up the whole piece of metal. Woo! Wow, just like that. Doesn't look like anything broke. Turns out if you have the right tools, it's a lot easier. I thought this was gonna be another hour or two of fiddling, and what time is it, like 4 o'clock? Pretty easy, turns out. So there we go. It's called the chain peeler, which does exactly what it sounds like. It peels the chain off as the chain is pulled in by the windlass. It peels it off the Wildcat, so it drops down into the chain locker and doesn't cause a snag. One project down. I'm pretty confident it'll work fine going forward for the rest of the season. 3 more days to my first charter. This next project was a good rainy day project where I was refinishing a bulkhead on the interior of the chart room. Since buying the boat, one thing that I've always hated was the screen accent wall. So today's project, I'm gonna pull off the fixtures off the wall, give it a light sand, and then match the white with the rest of the chart room. So here we are a few days later. This ended up taking me 3 coats of paint because the can I had that I thought matched this color was a little bit too white for the rest of the walls, so I had to paint it again. Got the colors to match. This is the final coat, and now is the satisfying part of peeling off the tape. In this project, I'm working to build up layers of sealant on my aft deck, where when it rained, it would leak down into the bunks below. It's about 9 p.m. and I'm on my 4th coat so far of sealant. The product I'm using is called Ship and Shore, a very, very thin sealant. And what that does is allow it to fall into some of the cracks and crevices that you're trying to plug up prior to putting varnish on. And so I'm targeting about 15 or 20 coats of this. Again, they're very, very thin layers that you're slowly building up layers over time. And for that reason, it goes on very quickly. At the very end, after I build up all these coats, I will switch to varnish, which protects the wood against the sun and creates a nice little finish. $65, almost 70-degree day here in Seattle, and we're gonna get ready to do some spring cleaning. One thing that I do before I head out every season is change out the oil and the filter of the engine. Argonaut is powered by a 1940 Gardner 6L3 marine diesel engine that is started with high pressure compressed air. Last year I put about 2,400 miles and about 320 or so hours on the engine, which isn't a lot for an engine like this, but it's still good to keep the oil cleaned out. What I use is this little hand vacuum pump here. It's pretty standard, and what you do is insert a rod down into the reservoir, pump out all the oil. I have a really convenient oil disposal center right here at the marina. Next, I'm going to change out the filter, which is located in this filter housing here. It's not actually the filter that was in here previously, but it was the closest match that I could find. And the first thing I'm going to do is drain it out through this little drain valve here, and that way I can rotate the filter out without getting oil spilling down into the bilge. Putting some old oil on the gasket here. And next I'm going to fill the filter up with oil just to help prime the pump so there's no air in the system.
This video was a good example of a bunch of day-to-day maintenance projects that I've been able to handle on my own, but some of the larger projects and longer-term restoration goals I cannot do by myself, both physically or financially. Currently, I am working with some of the best shipwrights in Port Townsend, planning ahead a massive restoration project to replank the port side, which is going to take several months of work and up to a couple $100,000 of materials and labor.
Got Argonaut flying drawings, and I'm walking through the yard here in Port Townsend to review all the original plans for Argonaut, just to get an estimate on how much material, particularly the size and length of the stern timbers. Looking forward to it.
So to get there, I'm trying to work on building a community with this YouTube channel. I have a Patreon that supports the making of these videos, and then we'll be posting ways that different people can contribute both with their time or financially on a fundraising campaign where I hope to be able to complete the project sometime this winter, and I will document and share the progress on both YouTube and social media along the way. Thank you all for watching, and look forward to the next video.